Well, let's now get the latest from the ground. Tony Waterman joins us now in DC. Tony, great to have you on the show with us. And as I've heard being said, it feels like a game of chicken right now. Of course, it is day 3 of that government shutdown. Are there any signs of either side's cracking? And has there been any movement at all, whether positive or negative, towards a resolution?
Well, the roll call for the vote taking place in the Senate is just happening now. So we're expecting them to vote on these dueling spending bills very shortly. But heading into this vote, there were certainly no signs of either side budging. Top Republicans held a press conference earlier today saying that there's just nothing to negotiate here. They are really digging their heels in on this 7-week funding plan, kicking the can down the road essentially until the end of November. They say that's going to give plenty of time to negotiate health care, including those expiring subsidies that the Democrats are fighting so hard for. The GOP, though, falsely claiming that the money the Democrats are asking for is going towards undocumented migrants. The big concern for Democrats here is that this could end up being a bait and switch, that they would vote to continue funding the government, get it back up and running, and then the Trump administration would just ignore their demands on health care and would just move forward with these cuts. Now, if these votes fail today in the Senate, which they are expected to do, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, has already said that he's going to send his party home for the weekend. That means that this shutdown is going to drag into next week, and perhaps even longer, because it appears that neither side is really talking to the other, at least at no formal negotiating level, to try to find some common ground here. What we're going to be watching for in this vote right now is whether we see any more Democrats defecting over to the Republican side, narrowing that gap to the 60 votes that Republicans need to get this bill passed.
Well, is either side feeling the pressure at all from their constituents? I mean, you've reported that the shutdown is now having some real-world impact over there. The September jobs report wasn't released on Friday. That could trickle down. Give us some more insight into that.
I think that the real world consequences are slowly starting to trickle in. You mentioned that jobs report. This is a very crucial piece of economic data here in the United States. It gives a snapshot of the labor market. That was not released today. And this is data that the U.S. Federal Reserve uses to set its monetary policy. It used that data to decide last month to cut interest rates for the first time this year. Inflation data is another key piece of economic data that for the Federal Reserve, and that also is likely not to be released the next time that it's due. So the question becomes, what are they going to be looking at? We have some private sector data that has been coming in earlier this week. That includes the ADP report showing that 32,000 jobs were lost in September. Challenger Gray & Christmas, which is an outplacement firm, they found that companies' announced hiring plans were down 58% this year. That is the lowest since 2009. So understanding the state of the U.S. economy is really important, not just to the Federal Reserve, of course, but also to private companies that base their business decisions off of this data. And it gets even more murky because these furloughs that we're seeing, hundreds and thousands of American workers being told, federal workers being told to stay home without pay, those could now be transitioning into permanent layoffs, and that is going to have a real impact on the economy. And the data reflecting that needs to be seen by companies and by the central bank.
And before we leave you, Tony, we're now at the weekend, basically. We know nothing will happen till Monday, which means we'll enter day 6 of the shutdown on Monday. Do you expect much to happen in the coming days? Because we're hearing quite a lot coming out of Republicans. They're getting cold feet in some areas. There are discussions, as we mentioned, around plans to slash the federal workforce. That's going against that long-standing practice of course, furloughing hundreds of thousands of workers. As you go into the 6th day this Monday, between now and then, what are the expectations?
Well, if everybody goes home this weekend here at Capitol Hill, there's not going to be much taking place. But I can guarantee you that a lot of these lawmakers, particularly the top brass of both parties, are going to be hitting the airwaves to try to get their message across. Ultimately, this is a battle in the court of public opinion, and both sides want to get the public on their side, want to place the blame on the other party. So expect a lot of TV interviews taking place this weekend. But you talked about this idea of this backfiring on Republicans, and some of them are starting to perhaps think about this, because President Trump and the White House budget chief, Russ Vought, have been very public in their desires to use this shutdown to lay off some federal workers. And this is really, though, something that they've been trying to do since Trump's first day back in the White House. House Speaker Mike Johnson earlier today said that no one, including Vought or Trump, are enjoying this. He said it's an unenviable task determining who is essential and who is not. And that's really a way of deflecting this to make it not seem like this was the plan all along for the Trump administration. That being said, President Trump himself has been posting these videos on his social media pages, depicting him as the Grim Reaper going after government employees. And his people are really trying to downplay this as him just having a bit of fun or trying to show Dems how ridiculous they're being. But with hundreds of thousands of people at home not getting paid, this is not a joke to them. And also, it has to be said here that we have not seen Donald Trump in public since Tuesday. The government is shut down. It is now day 3, and President Trump has not made any public appearances. He has nothing on his schedule to make a public appearance, which some would say is a little bit odd. But for the Democrats, I mean, they have to tread very carefully here as well, because a lot of the blame for these shutdowns traditionally has fallen on the party that initiates the shutdown.